Hello and welcome to the monthly care partner meeting with Insight Memory Care Center. This month, we're talking about culturally specific dementia care with the Alzheimer's Association. Our mission is to provide specialized care, support, and education for individuals in all stages of memory or cognitive impairment and their partners and the community. Our vision, a community where those living with memory or cognitive impairment and their care partners can achieve the highest quality of life. We are a leader in dementia care in Northern Virginia and happy to share that it's our 40th anniversary this year, supporting families on their dementia journey. With care, we have specialized adult day programs for people in all stages of their dementia journey. We connect by building relationships and supporting care partners on their journey. And we use creativity with our dementia experts, sharing their knowledge and resources because every journey is unique. So we're going to go ahead. I would like to introduce Sharon from the Alzheimer's Association. And I'm going to let her go ahead and share her screen. It's not. It's not on our screen. Unless I did it. There you go. You got it.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon. I am with the Alzheimer's Association. A little bit of background, I am a nurse by trade, but I'm a professional dementia practitioner and educational trainer for the state of Virginia and the Alzheimer's Association. I'm going to try to help and encourage conversations about culturally diverse and interesting information about how it affects dementia in our particular area, specifically talking about the Fairfax community. And see if we can go from here. So our mission at the Alzheimer's Association is that we're the leading Alzheimer's and support and all other dementias, because it's not just Alzheimer's, by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. Our vision, of course, is a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementias. So we want to look at dementia as a syndrome. Dementia is a collection of symptoms related to cognitive decline. It can include cognitive and behavioral and psychological symptoms due to biological changes in the brain. Alzheimer's is the most common cause. Mixed dementia is very prevalent. Some causes of cognitive decline are reversible, not truly dementia, and those would be things such as infections, lab imbalances, and things of that nature. What we want to understand that dementia is that umbrella. And underneath there, you have Alzheimer's, you have Lewy body, you have frontal temporal lobe, you have vascular dementia. But a lot of times, the reason why Alzheimer's is so prevalent is because we, as human beings, do not follow up with our care for getting our mental health and our cognitive health tested. So by the time the person goes into the doctor's office, they may have been experiencing cognitive decline for up to 4 to 6 years before they even come into the doctor's office. What we're finding out with our research is that changes happen in the brain 20 years before you ever see any of those changes. So what we're gearing our conversations and our training for the communities are for high schoolers, middle schoolers, college students, because those are those formative years when you think you're indestructible, you're not thinking about being healthy. And we want you to understand that in those 20s and 30s set you up for those 50s and 60s. So we are now moving to more education about prevention and understanding, because Alzheimer's and or dementia has such a stigma in society. And so nobody really likes to talk about it. So it's very important that we have those open conversations so people feel more comfortable. So these are our new 2024 Alzheimer's facts and figures. I believe in letting you see it, hear it, touch it, and going over it, because people learn differently. The most important thing that we want you to understand is that The amounts and the numbers are going to more than double by next year. And in this area alone, you're going to increase of about 26%. Understand that caregiving is a huge thing that people are not getting paid for, they're not getting support for. And that's what we're trying to also encourage and to support by changing laws and also finding monies to help caregivers. Because it is very, as you can see, it's very 1 in 9 people who are 65 and older has Alzheimer's and dementia. Understand that over 11 million Americans have healthcare or providing care for people that they're not getting paid for. That's me, you, you're getting groceries for somebody, if you're going to get them lunch, you're taking their trash out, you're caregiving, okay? More than 6.9 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. Understand that 7 in 10 would want to know early if they have Alzheimer's disease, if it could allow for earlier treatment. But only 4 in 10 Americans talk to their doctor right away when they're experiencing these symptoms. So when we're looking at some of these numbers, some of that has to do with our culture. It has to do with what we've learned growing up and what we know that we understand. Now, Virginia's prevalence, we say that 164,000 adults aged 65 and older. That's at least 12% of the population over age 65. And that is a total of 342 caregivers. That's 662 million hours that nobody's getting paid for, okay? And that's a 12.5 million value just in Virginia alone. Now, gender and racial differences in Alzheimer's prevalence, almost 2/3 of Americans with Alzheimer's are women. And then older Black, African Americans, and Hispanics and Latinos are disproportionately more likely than older non-Hispanic whites to have Alzheimer's or other dementias, okay? So when we look at this, what may impact the risk of cognitive decline in the dementia? So you have 3 non-modifiable risk factors. Those would be your age, your genetics, your gender, and your ethnicity. Your gender can be modified to some point, but it still pretty much is based on what you have in your genes and your hereditary issues and things. So these are things you cannot change. Now, the other things here that we are noticing that we have done research on, that these are our modifiable risk factors. Your substance use, education, traumatic brain injury, if you're jumping off cliffs or if you're riding skateboards, you need to have those helmets on. Physical activity. CDC recommends that everybody gets 30 minutes of activity a day. That means walking your dog, going to the mailbox, walking around the mall. That tallies up to about 150 hours a week. So that is what we're saying that you need to do, something that you like to do. We don't say run marathons. Cardiovascular health, understanding that what you do for your brain also helps your heart. 25% of each of your heart pumps go to your brain. So if you have issues with cardiovascular issues, circulatory issues, pulmonary issues, you need to make sure you know your numbers, you know your labs, you're taking your medications, because it also affects your brain. Also understanding sleep. There's a whole sleep study called the US Finger Study that they have looked at, that getting good sleep, uninterrupted sleep, is best for you. At least 5 to 6 hours each day. I believe in naps. But it's important that we give our brain that time to relax and relate, because when we go to sleep, our cerebral spinal fluid comes up into that brain and it cleans out all that trash. But if we're not getting good sleep, we're not cleaning it and getting a chance to reset. Also, eating as healthy as we can, and that looks different for everybody, and that is also based on cultural differences. Some of the programs that Virginia is now doing is making sure that older adults get to go to the fresh farmers markets, and they have a little certificate they can get the fresh fruits and vegetables. Some localities even have mobile farmers markets that go into different wards or boroughs, so that everybody has access to the fresh fruits and vegetables, because we found out that eating healthier is best. Understand, if you're only eating 20% of processed foods in your diet, that increases your risk of Alzheimer's and dementia to 28%. So even eating that mac and cheese, box mac and cheese, or eating those things that have all that processed in there, that's elevating your risk for getting dementia. Cognitive and social engagement. How many people in here are social butterflies? They love to talk and get out. Well, guess what? You're doing good things for your brain, because being socially active and talking and making sure you're not secluding yourself, it keeps your brain firing, your neurons going. Also, environmental and lifestyle factors. Everybody's like, well, how am I going to move if I'm what you're going to try to do is get out in this beautiful sun, nice weather, and walk around and have that nature exchange of oxygen and the fresh fruits and the fresh flowers, because that is another thing that helps you with your brain. Also, your lifestyle factors, making sure you're not surrounding yourself with stress, making sure you're taking care of yourself and doing self-care, even if you're a care provider. Now, I'm a proponent of staying in the bathroom and not using the bathroom, but you're locking the doors so nobody can bother you, even if you can't get away from your family. You need to take that time to decompress and have that time to yourself. So we understand that all of these risks impact cognitive decline. The three things we cannot change is your age, your ethnicity, and your gender. But all of these other things, which we can control, we can modify and adjust so we can reduce that risk. Okay? Now, risk factors for Alzheimer's disease, in a lot of the cases, is a result of complex interactions. When we think about complex interactions, we're talking about where you live, what you eat, your culture, where you live at, who you're interacting with. So it's not usually one thing, but we have to understand there's a lot of things that play into that. Now, when we look at primary prevention, we're looking at the person doing the risk reduction. Those are the things we're talking about just previously with the modifiable risk. This is where we want to be with everyone. And through our research, we found out that this is best. That early detection and diagnosis is, again, when that person goes to the doctor, they're getting their cognitive exams, which are free each year, just like your physical exams if you didn't know, but you have to ask for them. Medicaid actually and Medicare pays for that 30 to 40-minute little talk with your doctor, but you have to ask. But understand this is early detection and diagnosis. So that's your secondary prevention, making sure you're adamant about your health care. Now, the safety and quality of care is your third prevention or your tertiary prevention, because then you have dementia. So what does that look like? How am I navigating through that? Do I have my support from my doctor, my neurologist? It could be an endocrinologist, cardiovascular health, but most health systems now are going to that medical team providing all those services for you. But we want to catch everybody at the risk reduction part. But if you're already down here at the safety and quality of care, we want to make sure that it's taken care of. Now, we talked about the focus on risk reduction because those are things we can change. Up to 40% of dementia cases could be prevented or delayed by targeting those modifiable risk factors we talked about prior. Research suggests combining multiple healthy factors may be the most impactful. The most important three: physical activity, healthy diet, and cognitive and social stimulation. So all those people that love the Candy Crush, you go. Now, these are your 10 healthy habits for your brain. Protecting your head if you're doing skateboarding, being smoke-free, or if you're smoking, which I know is very hard for people to stop, reducing the amount you're smoking, getting moving, doing those things you love to do, challenging your mind, and also controlling your blood pressure. Also, manage your diabetes. Diabetes is another great risk for dementia, making sure you know your numbers. Also, sleeping well, sleeping at least those 5 to 6 hours, staying in school. And there's so many programs online. We were just talking about everybody Zoom and everything. There are so many programs online that you can get yourself educated and interested in. Also, eating right. And everybody says that costs a lot to eat right, and it does not. You have to be able to read your labels, know what's going on. I always say fresh is best, if not, then frozen. But you can eat right and still be in a budget. Also, maintaining a healthy weight, and that's going to look different for everyone. And I know everybody loves that BMI, but the BMI is not made for everyone. So please work with your doctor and decide where you need to be within your weight. So when we start looking at cultural issues, we have to also look at social determinants of health. So that's education access equality, healthcare access equality, also neighborhoods and your built environment. What is around you, what you have access. And what we found out that in rural areas, it's a little bit worse because, again, a lot of rural areas do not have bus transportation. A lot of older adults do not have families that still live within a 50-mile radius of them. So this is a huge thing, and that's why you'll see a lot of models that have like your Gen Care or your Innovage, or that will go out and pick up older adults so they can come into those centers. Because there's another study that we have done, and we can talk about that at another time, that they actually looked at rural areas and where those hot pockets are the southeastern part of the United States. And it's part of us too, because they're more rural areas. And most of our PCPs have started moving out of rural areas, which is not good for older adults, but we have to figure out a way to bring them back or either to bring people in. Also, social and community context. What is your community's beliefs on healthcare? Do they believe it's not a problem? Well, we don't have that problem here. We don't have any problems with dementia. We don't have any problems with diabetes or cardiovascular disease. But those are the three main focuses for the state of Virginia: diabetes, dementia, and cardiovascular health. We still have some localities in Virginia that the life expectancy has not changed in 20 years. And that's very sad because we should be better. Also, economic stability. When we're looking at economic stability, is the Alzheimer's Association, is Insider, all these people going and lobbying for the monies for healthcare? Are they lobbying for the care support? And that's what we do. We make sure that we're there saying, no, we don't need this. No, we don't need that. We recently have been working on the bill that we were getting first responders trained, because at one time they were considered direct contact with people with dementia. And we were like, I'm not. But we finally got that bill passed, and so they now have to be trained so that they can understand, so they're not being mistreated. And they can also provide support for caregivers. Because again, if me and you are in a relationship and I'm taking care of you and I'm tired of it and you're tired of me, and guess what? I'm going to look like that I'm being abusive, but it's just really, I'm tired. I have no support. So I'm calling 911 and come get her. What's your name?
Jamie.
Jamie, I don't want to take it. Jamie just won't listen. She won't sit down. She keeps going outside.
Mhm.
But it's important that they understand that whole demographic with mental illness, with dementia, with caregiver support, because they are usually the people that are coming in contact. Okay. So these, as you think about this, now we want to apply this to what is culture. So culture is the accommodation of particular societies or people's ideas, beliefs, cultural customs, examples like art, social behaviors. It's the essence of that society, something that is deeply ingrained, that is unique to that particular population. When you look at it in black and white, then we can see the pop-outs. So beliefs, attitudes, art, food, faith, religion, behaviors, rituals, customs, languages, those all encompass what culture is. So we have to realize that those social determinants of health are also influenced by the culture. Now, when you look at who is in our community, and this is from the census, from the 5-year estimates, from the last one was 2021. So the racial and ethnic makeup for Fairfax, Virginia, is that you have 54% white, 82.3 non-Hispanic, 18.3 Asian. Then you have multiracial is 3%. Black is 5%. Other Hispanic or Latino is 13.8. Mexican is 2.7. So this is, when you look at this part in the middle, this is all of the Hispanic and Latino, and this is non-Hispanic, and that's going to change now from the census again of how they're regulating who is who. But this is from the last one. So when you look at it, racial distribution, excluding Hispanics, you have 18% Asian, 17.6 Hispanic, 5% Black, and then multiracial, but 50% is white. So this is what is in your community proper right now. So the cultures in Fairfax County, of the 5 race categories, excluding ethnicity identified by the Census Bureau, namely American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander or white, Fairfax has a population in all of the other race categories. So y'all have a pretty much even distribution of a lot. You're very much diverse, and you're becoming more diverse in this county. But the percent of distribution of Fairfax population by race, all categories, is that 63% are white, 5% are Black or African American, and then you have a 12.5% of American Indian, 18% are Asian, and 5% are other race or multiracial. And so, do y'all see that in your caregiving? Okay. All right. So, knowing the culture is being person-centered. Because if you don't know the person's culture, you're not going to be able to support them. And some of the things that they may do based on their beliefs or customs or rituals, you will not understand. And you'll be like, well, why are we doing this? Why is this important to this person? We have to understand, what are their values? What is their roles in their families? Are they gender defined or are they generational defined? We have to also understand, what are those practices that are instilled in all of these things? Because again, you have social class systems for some ethnicities, you have age classism, you have a lot of different things going on. You have some demographics that the women do not speak at all. It is all the men and it's the sons, but that wife or that daughter should not speak at all. So we have to understand who we're taking care of to be able to provide that person-centered care. Now, what I love learning is that we learn for positive outcomes. So what is a cultural practice? A cultural practice involves behaviors, activities, and methods that define and shape the identity of a specific cultural group. These practices express the values, beliefs, traditions, and norms unique to their culture. An example is the habit of taking off one's shoes before entering a house is an important cultural practice. And we would not want to go take care of somebody or provide support, and we're just walking through their house with their shoes on, and they're looking at us like, and we're trying to figure out why. We need to know the cultures we are supporting. What is cultural traditions? Cultural traditions are defined as beliefs, customs, and habits that are passed down from generation to generation within a particular society. These customs serve as the foundation of a community's cultural identity. So traditional clothing, you have Jewish people that wear a traditional hat. They have particular clothing that they wear. You have Amish that wear particular clothing based on their culture and their religious beliefs. Music, types of dance. We also have religious ceremonies, and those can vary even within a certain culture. It can vary between different types of cultures within those cultures. Also, and I love this, food. Food is a huge thing in a lot of cultures. Providing that hospitality, making all those big, as I call one pot family meals of soup, or they have rice and then they might have something else, but it's a cultural thing and you're all supposed to sit down, and that's part of them welcoming you into their home. And even if you don't eat it, please take a plate home, because they will be very offended if you don't. So this is something that you have to look at again when you're trying to think about person-centered care, because these things are important, not only to me, but to you, but especially to other cultures. We sometimes as Americans do not realize that everybody does not grow up here. Everybody is not from here. And we need to realize, to appreciate others, we need to be respectful and also understand where they're coming from in their life.
Sharon, I do have to say I'm very grateful. In the beginning of my career, I was at a skilled nursing facility. We had someone who was a vegetarian because they were Hindu, and we didn't do person-centered care back in the day.
Mhm.
And the family would literally every meal come in with Rubbermaid containers to feed their loved one, and it broke my heart that they had to do that. So I'm so glad we don't that isn't the case anymore, and that we meet people where they're at with that.
Yes.
Because that was just really eye-opening for me back, over 20 years
Yes,
ago.
that's one of the things when I went to nursing school a long time ago. You were supposed to bring everybody back to your reality, and now we don't do that. So it's like we're doing all that wrong. But as you said, you saw people that were Indian or people that were of another faith because they were kosher. They wouldn't eat anything out of the cafeteria. They were bringing that food in. And I remember one time I had a particular Indian doctor that took care of his mother, and he's like, "I want you to take care of my mother." And I'm like, "But why?" He's like, "Because I know you would understand why we're bringing this food, making sure that nothing happens to the food." And a lot of times people they don't realize that food is an important part of culture. Okay. There are some soups that are only served on New Year's. There are some soups that are only served at funerals. So you have to understand, food is not only just a food, it is also based on ceremony and tradition. Okay. So positive outcomes continue. Unique cultural traditions, tradition and culture are linked. Okay. So understand, even though you thought you knew about Spanish people, but then this person comes in with another tradition, that's something that they incorporated into their culture that they borrowed. Both have developed other countless over generations, passed down, and traditions tend to be unique to certain societies and are usually born of local beliefs and circumstances. So even if they've been, as people say, Americanized and they have come from Haiti, they still might do some rituals and traditions that they did back in Haiti. Or it might be another island in Italy that they only ate fish and then they made a ceremonial fish for Christmas. Or maybe they didn't celebrate Christmas. So we have to understand and actually dive into it and understand it. One of the things that I actually do, I'm a chaplain and I've got my religious studies. And this is one of the things that we had to do based on religion. We had to research other religions and understand those traditions. Because when you're counseling or supporting somebody, you can't walk in there and push yourself on them. You have to first see what they're talking about, what's going on. I had the chance to go to a wonderful Haitian funeral, and everything, they're Catholic, and so everything was done in Creole. Now, I recognized some of the songs because of the tempo of the songs, and then I could sing them in English. But, you know, they did the rosary, and after the rosary, each one you did a song, and then you did this, and it was beautiful, but it was all in a different language, but you could still understand some of it. And I was like, oh, this is such the nice thing to be able to see. But had you not researched, because I went through my phone and was looking at, you know, Haitian Creole traditions and things, I realized what was going to happen. But if you don't do that, then you're shortchanging yourself, first of all, but you're also not being able to provide for the family the support they need. So we're going to play a short little game called Guess the Culture. One tradition at New Year's is the giving of red envelopes containing money. Parents and grandparents often give these to their children as part of celebrations. Is this Jewish culture, Indian culture, or Chinese culture?
C.
C. Chinese. Correct. Okay. So our next thing is during the Carnaval d'Hiver each year, people come together to hurl oranges at each other. The tradition is in the memory of a battle between the townsfolk and a ruling tyrant, with oranges thrown as part of the fight for freedom. Is that Finland, Spain, or Italy?
I think Italy.
It is. The next one. So these are things that I always say you can play games with your caregivers. But this is after singing happy birthday, guests watch while the birthday boy or girl blows out the candles. Then they lean over and take a bite of the cake, at which point someone will push their face into it. Is that Mexico, the US, or Hawaii?
Mexico.
Mexico, correct. So this is a fun game to be able to do with your caregivers and also with your staff, to kind of a fun way to learn different things. And you could also do this with music. You can do this with photographs. You can do it with actually areas of different countries that can help you with this. But I think this is a fun way to kind of learn new things. So Asian Americans and dementia. So one in four, 25% of Asian Americans report a lack of family support as a barrier. Okay. Most Asians, almost half, believe that medical research is biased against people of color. Only 12% of Asian Americans report that they have no barriers to excellent Alzheimer's and dementia care. More than half, 56% of Asian Americans believe that significant loss of memory or cognitive, such as thinking or learning abilities, are a normal part of aging. This is where we have to change, because this is what they believe and this is part of their culture. What I have also found out is that they are concerned after they see someone in their family affected by it, but they don't know what to do. So that's 46%. This lady here is a CNN reporter, and there's a blog on Alzheimer's Association that she talks about for moms and their journey. The other thing I will say that I've worked closely with the Filipino Nurse Association, their population, and they do not talk about Alzheimer's and dementia at all. So I had a particular nurse that her grandmother had passed. So now we're planning a Zoom between the United States and the Philippines, because now they want to come together and have this whole conversation, because they're not sure about what it is, what's going on. But now they've seen this happen, so they want to know more. A lot of cultures will not ask for information until it's right here. Okay. And then a lot of times finding training or support where they feel comfortable, they're not going to go to. So you have to bring it where that is, either a lot of times with their get-togethers in their homes, or like we're going to do this via Zoom. So it'll be people in Virginia and then people in the Philippines and whoever else wants to come. The Filipino Nurses Association, I'll be going there. And I'm talking to them. What I did not realize is down the Hampton Roads area is the largest population of Filipinos outside of California. So that was something I had to learn and did not know. So understand, these are things that we have evidence-based and have reported, but this is also a real story on our blog that you can go to when you Google it. Now, Hispanic Americans and dementia. While Hispanics are 1.5 times more likely than whites to have dementia, more research is needed to understand why. 1/3 of Hispanic Americans report that they have experienced discrimination when seeking health care, medical apartheid. Almost 9 of 10 Hispanics, 85%, says it's important for Alzheimer's and dementia care providers to understand their ethnic and racial background and experiences. So we are failing as a healthcare system because, again, we're not thinking, we're not listening, we're not looking at the information. Almost 6 in 10 believe that a significant loss of memory or cognitive abilities, again, is a normal part of aging. So not only just most Americans, but also the different ethnicities believe that, Uncle Joe got it, and we just kept him in the back room, gave him a plate every now and then. Oh, Mom got it, and we just dealt with her and just, till we put her in a home. So again, nobody was thinking to learn. But you have to also understand that most Americans do not provide any education, research anything, unless they're in the middle of that storm, okay? So that's what we want to prevent. We want to educate more. Seth Rogen has Hilarity for Charity, and they are doing programs now in middle schools and high schools. And they are finding out that they're using actors to train and educate because people will pay attention to actors before they will professional doctors and things. And that's working out great for him. And I think that's wonderful. They also offer scholarships. So if you have anybody that needs any of those, they start in high school through college. It's a wonderful thing. And the reason why he and his wife got into it is because her mother had Alzheimer's and they didn't know what to do at the time. So while they were going through, they developed this nonprofit called Hilarity for Charity. And it's a wonderful thing that they do. So African Americans and dementia, we understand that only 20% of Black Americans say that they have no barriers to excellent health care support for Alzheimer's or other dementias. Half of Black Americans say that they have experienced discrimination while seeking care for a person living with Alzheimer's. Only 48% of Black Americans report being confident they can actually access culturally competent care. Only 53% of Black Americans believe that a cure for Alzheimer's will be distributed fairly without a regard to race, color, and ethnicity. Only 35% of Black Americans say they are concerned about Alzheimer's or dementia. 65% of Black Americans say that they know somebody with Alzheimer's and dementia, and 55% of Black Americans think that a significant loss of cognitive abilities, again, is a natural part of aging. So when you look at these 3 different disparities, what do you notice runs throughout?
They think it's normal.
Think it's normal. What's the other thing that they believe?
They're not going to get proper care.
If I go to my doctor, they're not going to give me proper care. They're not going to advocate for me. So the other thing that we have to look at when we're looking at these questions is our history, our past. We don't believe or trust medical providers that they're not going to experiment on us. They're not going to use us as guinea pigs. They're not going to be truthful about the results that they give us. So you have our past that you still have that generation saying, oh no, Henrietta Lacks and the Tuskegee Airmen, or when we had the Japanese in California and they were working, but we were also doing all these experiments. So you have to understand that you still have that part of history. And you still have that passing down through what? Their culture and their traditions. I don't go to the doctor anymore because the last time your uncle went, they did this, but really he had to have his whole foot amputated. We didn't know anything about that. We didn't understand because they did not have anybody to advocate for them. They did not understand. And when I say communication is huge, how many in here, let's see, have a family? So do you communicate with your family the way that you communicate with your coworkers? No. Do you communicate with your significant other the same way that you communicate with your coworker? No. So we all have different conversations. So even with healthcare providers and support, caregivers, advocates, ombudsmen, we need to know how to talk to not only just the person with dementia, the person that is the care provider. We also have to make sure that the doctor understands. We have some issues here with understanding. If all of y'all were in a family, all 7 of y'all, each one of y'all are going to have to understand it differently. That's why I'm a firm believer in saying it, speaking it, touching it, and for me, praying on it. Because sometimes the more and more you talk, people are not going to listen because it's so overwhelming. So you give them some pamphlets, you give them some time, you check on them and say, what can I help you with? Because it's very important that we are dealing with all of this. 55% of each of these demographics believe that it's a natural part of aging. It's going to happen. I'm just going to wait on it. But we have to understand we can change this by what? Going back and teaching how to be healthy, how to prevent it, what are our risk factors, why we should be concerned about diabetes and our heart issues and all of that, even our cholesterol, because the same plaques that develop in our arteries are the same plaques that develop in our brain. So all of it is tied together. But we have to change these numbers. But the only way that we can change these numbers is to provide the education, encourage more of the ethnicities to participate in clinical trials, in research. But if they don't trust us to even walk into the doctor's office, do you think they're going to trust us to go and be in a clinical trial? But it's very important that we do encourage clinical trials and research. And what we found out that people that look the same are better for people to get them involved in clinical trials, to get them involved in research. There's a whole lot of research out here now that you don't even have to have dementia. And you don't even have to go into a facility. Call you on the phone, you go get some lab draws every now and then, and most of them are compensated. So that's another way to make some side money, but also provide for our future and making sure that we have, that education, that knowledge. But it's important that when you're dealing with different cultures, you got somebody from Russia. Okay, where did they grow up in Russia? What type are they? An Orthodox Jew? Are they Catholic? Are they, what do they do? What do they believe in? How can I provide support? Because maybe they won't believe me, but they'll listen to the priest. Or if they don't want to listen to me, then maybe they will listen to the nun. So you need to figure out how can I still get my message across, but they will still trust me. Trust is a huge thing. And that's one thing most United States and people that live here do not have a lot of. But we have to understand that when we're supporting and doing caregiving, we have to develop that trust. Knowing your different ethnicities, no matter if you're here in Fairfax or if you're here in the southern part or the western part of Virginia, you need to know, are you dealing with American Indians? Are you dealing with a population of Hindu Indians? Are you dealing with the Amish people? Because they believe in everything fresh and cutting it up and serving it right there. So you have to think about it, okay, how do I get into them to realize that even though they're eating pretty good because they're growing everything and they're chopping everything up, but what are the other risk factors that we need to look at? Do they have a sedentary lifestyle? Are they doing a lot of fried foods or high fat content foods? They love cheese, and I love cheese too, but that's not one of the things we need to have. So we have to look at everything because all of that is tied together. It's just not, oh, what's your name? Erin. Erin, it's not just that Erin has dementia. What type does she have? How can I support her? What is her family's knowledge of dementia? Who do I need to help train to support her as things move along? And the biggest thing, has she prepared for any of this? What resources do you have? Because at the end of the day, we are living longer, thanks to the wonderful COVID reset. So we're living longer. So people with dementia and Alzheimer's are also living longer. The average person now lives 20 years. And that's after that initial diagnosis of that 4 to 6. So that 4 to 6 model, 20 more years after that diagnosis. So we have to realize we do not have the healthcare system right now to support that at all. From the other thing from COVID is the burn-in. So you have a lot of healthcare providers that are not in the system anymore. You have people like me that came out of the hospital system and is doing community health education because I realized that I got tired of seeing Erin. And I got tired of seeing her come in there. So let me go out in the community and educate them so they don't keep coming back in. We had a lot of people that were caregivers that would come and bring their loved ones and leave them at the ER. We would get them ready to go home. They wouldn't answer the phone. We would have to call Adult Protective Services. We would have to then get them a POA. We would then have to find them a home. They were done. And if you're not educated, if you're not knowledgeable, you are going to be done. So I think and I believe that caregiver support, education, meeting people where they are is the most important thing with dementia and Alzheimer's. I also believe that we are supposed to be advocates for our health. I think we need to be advocates up there on their heel and with our legislature, our congressmen and everything, because those are the laws that are going to be needed just yesterday. But they're definitely going to be needed next year because that's when you're going to see that huge explosion. And again, we're aging in place, but we want us to be able to age in place safely. The state of Virginia has wonderful programs such as balance and flexibility. They have walking programs, silver sneakers. They have all these different programs that are free through the different community centers. And AARP has a walking club. They have all these things in, but did you know about them? Did anybody know? A lot of times that connection is not there. They didn't know that right there at the library, there's a whole health and wellness hub through VCU. Or right over here, there's a whole band that'll come pick you up and take you to a community center so you can do arts and crafts and keep your brain active. But we're not making the connection. It's important. Yes, sir.
I just had something to say because the connection thing, I keep thinking about that. So like drawing back on what you were saying about communities and how certain communities have access to more education, obviously. So my concern with that is, are we writing off certain communities, and disabling them from getting all the education that they need, that's like where I see the biggest problem is education, like you're saying. But I think I grew up in a rural area and there's nothing. Like there's absolutely nothing for anyone. I mean, and even when you're like the discrimination part, like it's there's only like two primary care doctors in the whole area, so yeah, I'm kind of just talking out loud, but
no, what has happened in the past 2 or 3 years, the state of Virginia has pulled back monies from rural areas and help.
thanks to a certain
And I have to be very specific when I talk because I am a contract with them. But they have pulled back monies from rural areas, your local health departments. They have not. At one time when we were in school, you could go to school, they would pay for it, and then you had to work in a rural area for a certain amount of time. A lot of those places, because they've done redistricting and all that, do not qualify as a rural area. It is a rural area, but because you've changed the way you're counting the population, it's not a rural area. So they've done a disservice for us because they're trying to pull all these again into major cities. And the area that I'm from in the Tri-Cities, which is encompassing Petersburg, Colonial Heights, Chester, Prince George, Hopewell. So understand what you
live in Richmond. Well, I worked at SNF in Richmond before this. I grew up in South Hill.
Oh, look,
Yeah,
that,
you know where.
so yeah, so Southfield right now is screaming for services,
That whole
for
line.
everything.
Yeah.
So they're screaming for services because they only have VCUs down there, I think, Boston Force.
VCU down there, Monster Force.
Yeah, but they are not hospitals to deal with major issues. They're still shipping them this way to Richmond or to Petersburg because Petersburg now is Boston Force. So that particular, we're just focused on that. So the thing about South Hill is that is in VCU's catchment area. It's also in Boston Force catchment area. It is in VDH's catchment area also. But I will tell you, they have no services for diabetes. They don't have any services for cardiovascular. And they don't have dementia services because it is that pocket.
Yeah.
It's technically not this because you have two major hospital systems here. You have access to food. And then my biggest thing is food deserts, because you know the definition of a food desert is you can't have this, that, and the third, but what type of food? If you're looking at Save-A-Lot and you have a food line, then you have a Walmart, but are they accessible on a bus line? Are they able for these people to get to? No, they're not. I did a whole program one time in the city of Hopewell based on diabetes prevention, but we also talked about food and food access. In this high rise, there's a Dollar General, there's a Hardee's, there's these two. So everybody's getting their food from Hardee's or Dollar General.
Yeah, I worked right off the Midlothian Turnpike, the whole strip, like
Yes.
where I worked, all of what there. I don't remember a grocery store. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying? Like, all it was motels,
Yeah.
fast food, That's in Richmond, that's.
But technically that area is, because they have those, it's not a food desert, but it is because the types of foods that are accessible, they're all processed.
They're not healthy.
Cup
Yes.
of noodles is not food.
Yes. So what I did for them, I did we did USDA food boxes. So I would do a whole meal prep on what came in their box for that week. Or we would do a whole meal prep about how to shop healthy at Dollar General or Dollar Tree. Because I realized they didn't have access to anything. So I needed to go where they had access to show them how to shop. But you have to understand, that's why I tell everybody, pay attention to the laws and those redistricting things, because it not only affects elections, it also affects how things are going to be counted as far as your demographics. I live in Prince George County. It is rural. My daughter did not qualify for some college programs because they consider Prince George rural. But I'm like, really? But Hopewell is rural, but it's a city. But those people can qualify, but I live in the county and I don't. So it's all about the numbers.
Oh,
And
there you go.
yes, I can't say that.
Well,
But you can.
I'll say it for you.
So it's about the funding and the programs. Our wonderful governor now, the city of Petersburg, closed down several of. They used to have a Save-A-Lot. They replaced the Save-A-Lot. That's gone with a Dollar General that has literally a wall of just processed foods. They have a Food Line and they have a Walmart. How many older people do you think can really get to those things? They can get to Dollar General because it's right smack dab in the middle of Petersburg. To go out to Walmart, it's on Crater Road. To go back out to the other store. So I've heard rumors that he's trying to partner and bring a Whole Foods to Petersburg, and I'm like, but why? Who's going to shop who can afford to shop Whole Foods in Petersburg? But he's trying to pull. So like I said, you have to pay attention to all of that because that all ties into your health care.
I think that's my whole point is like, it drives me crazy to hear people say like, eat healthy, go to the doctor, take the bus there. Okay, well, it's not that simple.
It's not, and I do another crisis program with another mental
Not
health.
saying you were doing that.
No, but I'm just saying,
That's a
I moonlight with this other crisis center and we deal with homeless people. We deal with people that live on the street. And just the basic stuff that we take for granted, getting in the car, going to the doctor, it is a huge move for them. I've had people that just want to learn how to wash clothes. I've had people that just need to get back to their doctor. They've been incarcerated, they're out. They haven't been to the doctor since they were incarcerated. They missed an appointment at this health clinic, so now they can't get back in. And it's like, you can't, but I don't think until healthcare affects everybody, is it gonna be important to anybody? Okay, I guess that makes sense. I think what is about to happen next year will kind of shift everybody to see, oh, we really needed to do something 10 years ago. But what I will tell you that more of these education programs, because I do 3 different ones. I do a CDC base for diabetes prevention. I do cardiovascular health with the American Black Cardiologist, and I do dementia and Alzheimer's, because those are the 3 things that affect everybody. And those are the 3 things that we do not have good education on. The largest number of demographics that affect people with cardiovascular disease are men, 30 to 39. And that's like a lost demographic because nobody sees them and they don't think they have problems.
Yeah.
The other biggest demographic for diabetes is, again, high school students. Because what? Processed foods. So you're seeing these different numbers shift and change throughout different age groups. So just like mental health was not a big thing till they started seeing younger kids killing themselves. So now we have all of these new laws dealing with mental health and all of that. So again, it has to affect.
It drives me nuts because older adults have the highest suicide rate in the country and we're not dealing with that.
No. There was 50,000 adults killed themselves last year? 50,000. 50,000 adults killed themselves last year, just last year. So what are we doing for them? And we don't even talk about our VA vets. Our VA vets, they're losing a person almost every 30 minutes, every hour. They have dementia, they have PTSD, they have traumatic brain injuries, they have chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and that's been in a theater with a lot of booming and banging from artillery. They are now tying all of that together, because if you're not treating their dual diagnosis of dementia, of depression, and PTSD, it's developing into dementia, and that is happening in their 40s.
Yeah.
So now we're working with the VA to educate them on how all of this looks and how to differentiate and support families. So understand, all of this is all tied together, but until we start looking at it as a whole, it's always just going to be here, there.
Starts when it's just the cycle your whole life, really. Sorry, I didn't mean to take you completely.
Oh, no, that's fine, because that's why one of the things that we're doing, we are focusing now on younger generations, middle school, high school, college, because that's where it needs to be, not just trying to encapsulate people my age. You need to teach them earlier. With a lot of my health programs that I do for diabetes prevention, I'm at farmers markets on Saturday mornings, because I'm doing hot markets with the kids and teaching them about lettuce and different and these things. Because again, if you get that in their mind, and we partner with Molina Healthcare, thank you, and they give kids $10 that they can go spend, well, veggie bucks, $10 veggie bucks that they can go spend for fresh fruits and vegetables, but you have to come to the table and you learn about the different fresh fruits and vegetables, whatever's in season, because that's getting the whole family out. You're using your SNAP benefits, you get your double amount, and then you get those extra bucks. But that's another program that the state has implemented to get more kids on the right path of thinking. So we're going to look at this. See if it's going to play. Come on. This is the end. This is the end of my presentation. The information that you saw here can also be provided in PDFs so that you can have it readily. If you have any other ethnicities or LGBTQ plus and A, if you have any of that information that you need PDFs on or information, I also do presentations on that. I do presentations on dementia, specific Lewy bodies, all of those, because they do affect each person differently. It's not just Alzheimer's. And now that we're doing more research and people are finding out earlier, just like Bruce Willis with frontal temporal lobe, Wendy Williams with frontal temporal lobe, you know, my favorite Mork from Ork, he passed away from Lewy bodies, but that was part of his depression dealing with that. So you have a lot of celebrities and a lot of people that now are famous, and then you have, you know, Parkinson's and all of that. And so you have a lot of people now that are champions for the different types of dementia that you will see out in the news also. You can have more research, and that kind of helps you have a conversation sometimes with different populations if they identify with Bruce Willis or if they identify with Wendy Williams or, you know, Mork from Mork or, you know, any of those. Yeah, I laugh about that. But you find the way that you can connect with them. Music and dementia is awesome, awesome, awesome. I do a whole presentation on that because the one thing about Alzheimer's and dementia, they never lose their rhythm. So they can always do song, they can always dance. And that's one of the things, even if they're shuffling like this when they're walking, but when they dance, they can do their steps. So it's very important that we use art, we use music, and we use those things that they can still benefit from and helps them. Any questions?
Thank you, Sharon. If anyone online has questions, please put them in the Q&A and I will gladly ask for you. Does anyone here have questions?
I thought it was significant. It sort of came to a head in COVID with different groups being sort of anti-vax in that moment, but was already in place prior to that because a lot of anti-vaccination groups identified that certain cultures already had a predisposition to distrust the medical community completely justifiably. But when COVID came about, and all of a sudden, I think on a much larger scale, the discussions of different ethnic groups not feeling comfortable with vaccination. How do you feel education on that was to the healthcare community and helping us to understand and overcome people's concerns?
So my personal belief about COVID, I got mine when I had to. I did not get it when everybody else did. I got it because I was vain enough and I went to go on a trip. So I did not. I still have people in my church community that never had it. The thing about COVID is a virus. It's just like the flu. It's just like anything else. I think you would have been better off building up antibodies than to actually take something that was manufactured. Not even for that. But that's my personal opinion. Culturally, with any type of vaccines, any type of medicines, any type of new treatments, you're going to have to look at your culture. You're going to have to look at your beliefs. African Americans have a very huge distrust dealing with any type of research.
Justifiably.
Yeah, any type of things like that. You also have Hispanics that, first of all, may not understand, but may not realize that because a lot of other cultures besides us in America rely on and believe in herbal, holistic medicine. So we have to factor that in because it's not just I go to the doctor every 6 months or I go once a year. I might be making herbal tea at home that my grandmother taught me how to make from this mushroom that I take every winter. And that keeps me from being sick. So we have to look at what their beliefs are, what they bring into the plate. I'm not a proponent of a whole lot of medicine, and that's just me because I've been in healthcare. So 9 times out of 10, you will find me with the natural stuff before you will find me with anything else. I also stay away from a lot of people. If I'm not working, I'm usually home. So I'm not out and about with a lot of crowds because you don't know how people are and how clean they are if they're aware of certain situations. When COVID was around, I carried the whole thing in my trunk. So everywhere we went, pumping gas, anything, I had all that in my car because I believe that you don't know what else is going on. So I think giving them the information, but also understanding what their beliefs are, and then letting them make the decision. You have to understand you even have Seventh-day Adventists that don't do blood transfusions. So you have people in Worldwide Church of God, they don't believe in any type of opening up bodies and doing all that type of things. So you have to look at each culture differently and be okay with providing information. I used to work on a chemo floor and I used to have a chemo doctor that was very mad with me because I'm still going to give you the information about the chemo you're taking, what the side effects are and what the benefits are. Let you still make your decision, but they were like, you realize which floor you work on? I said, yes, I do, but that's still me being my patient's advocate. You're the doctor, but I'm still going to let them know what this drug does, what its benefits are, because they need to have a proper education.
As someone who went through chemo, I greatly appreciate that because even though I had to have the treatments I had to save my life, knowing what each drug did for me and what side effects to expect, so that I could advocate for myself. If you don't know something is a side effect of a drug you're on, you don't even know to tell someone, hey, I think I'm having a side effect from that. So empowering people with knowledge is essential.
Because there's a lot of like chemo issues and cancer that can cause dementia. There's a lot of blood pressure medicines that can make you appear to have dementia, but you don't. So it's very important. I always tell everybody, I'm the main one that's like, no, I don't need the pharmacy consult, but I always take the paperwork home just to look at it because I think it's important to know. And I met a lady probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago at Henrico, and she thought at one time she had dementia, but then when she started going through her medicine, she realized one of the side effects was making her have the issues. So when they pulled her back off these medications, they put her in the hospital, but they pulled everything off and then just started adding it. She felt a whole lot better after they figured out which one it was that was causing the cognitive issues. So that's why I say it's very important that you have to educate. You also have to hear. We as Americans, we listen to respond. We do not listen and then give the answer. So we have to listen to be able to help somebody. And I always tell everybody, asking people for help is not saying you're weak, it means you're wise.
Mhm.
Because we cannot all do it by ourselves.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you, Sharon. We truly appreciate it. Up on our shared screen is upcoming events. You can always go to insightmcc.org/events. Next month's talk is reducing falls and improving cognitive exercises. And we're happy to say we have Dr. Kieran Reed from Brigham and Women's who will be joining us via Zoom for that conversation. So we're excited to have him. But if you guys have any further questions, my contact information is up there and you're more than welcome to reach out and I can share Sharon's information and get that out there as well. And this is recorded. We will have it up on our webinars as well. So thank you guys again for coming. And we look forward to seeing you all next month.